Thank you, Eric. First time I spoke to Eric was on a bias-motivated event. I needed to solve a problem. My boss, everybody has a boss, right? Called me up and said, listen, we need to get to the Ironworker because we have a challenge. And I reached out to Bobby Walsh, who's here in the room. He gave me his cell phone number. I called him. He was gracious, and he jumped right on it. That's a partner. That's a partner. Thank you, Eric. Let me get myself organized here. I'm going to go off script. I'm going to go off script because I have to tell you, I'm absolutely motivated by what I'm seeing here in this room. And what I thought I would talk about, I think I'm going to switch a little bit, okay? When I was in college, I wasn't a great student. I was an okay student. But I took a lot of notes. And then I did well because I went back to my notes. I want to just share with you what was talked about in this room that sometimes gets overlooked. These are the words that I'm taking away with me when I go home, and I'm going to go talk to my partners in the industry about what happened in this room this morning. Partnership, coalition, ideas, value, like-minded. You guys are the apprentices right here? Listen up, you're the future. Listen to what I'm telling you. I bust my ass every day for young people like you because you're the future. Doesn't matter whether you're management or labor. The future is different, and you're going to shape it. In your own tagline, it says, be professional and progressive. I didn't write these words. It's in your paraphernalia, and they're right. Value proposition was used up here. Health and wellness. It used to be safety in my day. Now it's health and wellness. You lost somebody recently? Last week, I'm in my office, and I'm listening to sirens on the 35th floor of 66 Hudson, built union by people in this room. And I hear sirens because a young man flew from California to New York, to Madison Square Garden, to Penn Plaza, figured out how to get in the building, even though he was stopped several times, went to the top, took off all his clothes, took off his wallet, his tickets, nice notes to his family, 23 years old, and leaped to his death. Think about that. You know what my first thought was? Was he a worker? How ridiculous that was. That young man's life that he took has changed so many people. Think about that. Makes me sick that I would even think, was it just a worker? Safety. I run safety for the entire company. And one of the things I do know is that we're getting better. For sure, we're getting better. Our record is better, and it's because of the trades take safety seriously. It's a culture. And clearly today, everything I see, the Ironworker takes it seriously. I heard this comment over and over again. My wife. Don't get me started because my wife can keep me busy. And I got a feeling that some of us in this room also have wives that keep them busy. Armed forces, improvement, craft worker shortage, no more cowboys, promise to the client, identify, clarify, magnify, check your ego at the door, consolidate, lack of patience, economy, tamp down growth. Think about that. Our feds are tamping down growth, and all we're trying to do is what? Grow or maintain. Mega projects, collaboration. I didn't expect to say those words when I started today, but it certainly was something that stuck with me, because if these are the words you take away and you act on them, you'll move the needle. Eric and Kevin and Vicki O'Leary came to visit with me over the summertime. We had a great conversation. We didn't know each other that well, but we spent some time very quickly. You challenge each other by who do you know, and after a little bit of conversation, you can lock and load and say, you know what, this is a credible guy. And I have to tell you, one of the things that I noticed quickly was that the Ironworker is business-minded. Business-minded. Somebody's words said, no more cowboys. There's no more intimidation. There's no more, entitlement. The future is based on providing value. I think we all know that. I want to share a little bit about my background. Who am I as a contractor to get up in front of you and try to impose some thoughts about what the future is or what the industry is? I'm the first generation of Italian Americans. My father and both my grandparents were union laborers. And I carry a card. I carry a card. I went to college at Rutgers University on a scholarship from the union. My father was a labor foreman for a company called Schiavone Construction. Schiavone's owned by Dragados, big company. And Turner, as you saw, and Eric said, under my watch, I was asked to go buy a heavy construction company to bolt on to our building business in New York. And we bought E.E. Cruz, great little company. My father used to work for that company. Today, my father's 91 years old. He still attends union meetings. I'm very proud of my father. We have some serious conversations about some DE&I things that we would talk about. He doesn't see the world quite the way I see it. He calls me a pencil pusher. Can you imagine that? I'm a pencil pusher. In 2006, I joined a board for non-traditional employment for women. It's a workforce development, pre-apprenticeship workforce development for women. Why did I do that? I have two daughters, one who's 29 and one who's 27. And I could never imagine how they could go through life and want to work in our industry. They don't, but if they wanted to hear them say things like, well, you can't work in the trade with your hands, or you can't work for a company like Turner because, it's a tough business out there. That's only for superintendents. It never made any sense to me. Last January, I was asked to take over a group called the Building Trades Employers Association. Think about what I just said, BTEA. So it's those contractors in New York City who have union agreements, which Turner does and many others. And of course, we partner with who? Labor. Labor in New York City is called BCTC. And what I really am taken back by is this partnership that Impact really has. And the BTEA and labor, it's so important that they create this partnership. And we do have a great partnership. But I'll tell you, it changed. It changed quite a bit in 2008 when the market turned on us. Jobs just died, mostly residential. And the big developer, was looking for what? Keep their jobs going, finish out, make due on their promises to the bank, and cut costs. And how do you cut costs? When 40 to 50% of the cost on a job is labor, you could imagine what they were thinking. And it was at that time we had this thing called the PLA, the Project Labor Agreement. We never had them. And there was a partnership called the Construction Industry Partnership at that time that worked together, but eventually we lost our way. We lost our way, and we weren't able to work through this world that was becoming quasi-non-union. You heard it. So what is the one fundamental thing that we all do when you walk in this room? Every one of us, whether you're a contractor, a subcontractor, a vendor, or labor, we're all fighting for market share. We're all fighting for market share. And if you don't know that, and you just think you get to walk on that job because somebody's going to magically make it appear for you, we're missing something. We as contractors have a direct connection to the owner, right? Subs want work from the contractor. Labor signs CBAs, right? We know the cascade, but does it really work that way? There's a saying, if you're not growing, you're shrinking, right? This BTA that I took over, we're right now looking for a new director. Let me tell you what the 4 questions are that we're asking ourselves. Asking a potential candidate, somebody like Kevin Hilton, who fights really hard for you. How will you help us grow market share? That's our first question. If we get work, subs have work, unions have work. Pretty basic, right? Do you have a relationship with labor? It's very important. If we're fighting, we're not getting things done. Or something like the CIP that we had falls apart. Can you endure creative tension with labor? You know, we don't always have to get along, but you have to know where we're going. We can debate. We could be professionals. We could be progressive. And we can probably find solutions. Here's another one. It was said here, can you prevent regulatory and political restrictions that impact our ability to execute work? Right now in New York, a contractor is a big bad person because we drop things on the street and kill people. It's not true, but politicians who want to run for office will certainly paint that picture. It might be different in the Greenlands, right? What I do up in Maine or what we talk about in New Jersey or what's happening out in Pittsburgh are completely different. So what problem are we really trying to solve? Is it market share? Or is it living up to the commitment to these young men here? I don't know why there's not a woman, but these young men here, over there? All right, great. There we go. Thank you. And we could use some color, by the way. Diverse. But think about this. Whether you have a parent who was in this business or you just love to work with your hands, we made a promise to you that if you trust us, we'll get the work so you can have a livelihood. But what do you do in return for us? Think about that. You know what I think that's really missing? This is the first message, is do you realize that you are ambassadors of this business each and every day? How you look, what you say, how you talk. Everything we do is a representation out to the marketplace. I was thinking about this New York environment I live in, even though I touch a lot of this country, but I'm in a microcosm. You're there, you see it every day. We have 120,000 workers in New York. 120,000 workers. And they're fighting for their lives. I don't know, maybe Peter Meyer and Bobby Walsh and Jim Mahoney may know exactly, and maybe we even distort it to feel better, but we're losing work each and every day to skilled, high-rise, non-union contractors, general contractors, who have a choice that say, we do or we don't want union workforce on our job. Today, I would say it's open shop. Best man wins. That's what's happening. So if that's the case and you're going to demonstrate value, how do we do this? Personally, I think the workforce is more important than you give yourselves credit. I say this each and every day when I get a chance to speak to labor and management. The most important person on the project is the person who works with their hands. And damn it, I think this country has lost their way to respect and understand how important it is that people who work with their hands are celebrated. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
So all I ask is that you recognize that, and then how do you take this value proposition you have, that's the term, and convert it into being salespersons while you work the work? I walk onto projects that are open shop. And I can tell you, I know who's a union worker and who's a non-union worker. And you want to know why? How many of you got suits on today? You're looking real spiffy with your suits on. Well, guess what? When I walk onto a project with a suit, I'm treated like a piece of shit because I got a suit on. By my own workforce. And I have a Turner jacket on and a Turner hat on. And I'm on the elevator and they don't even say hello to me. Think about that. Not a non-union worker. I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure that non-union worker is taught by their owner who provides them, comfort and stability, that when you see the client, particularly somebody with a suit on, you never know who that person is. If you walk around a job in New York City, we got some big name developers who like to walk their jobs, and they like to be treated respectfully, not like a piece of shit. They're not asking for the, fall over their feet for them, but they want to be treated respectfully. So don't ever forget that likability and working hard, looking pretty good. You don't have to look like slobs when you're walking on a job. Look as good as the work you perform. You don't start the Super Bowl with your uniform dirty, do you? And you certainly don't play the last 2 minutes the way you do the full game, do you? Every day you're playing in the Super Bowl and you're playing in the last 2 minutes to compete with the open shop trade. Don't forget that. So you got a lot of great value there. Another thing I want to say, Pete Meyer knows this. I went into an event one day. Pete, you were not feeling good. You were upset. You had lost 4 jobs, you told me. I was like, gee, I thought I was talking to a subcontractor. I never spoke to a union leader who told me he just lost 4 jobs this week. I started thinking about that. And I said, Pete, you should come up and sit with us because we have all the data. If you have relationships with your contractors, they have a lot of data. And they can help you, form an approach that will make a big difference in how you go forward. And Pete, I want you to know, was because of that meeting you and I had, I went and saw Gary LaBarbera, and I said, we got to restart this CIP. And we got to get something going that doesn't recreate what we had, but creates something new and progressive. Professional and progressive, I like that. All right, keep that up. Because together we'll be able to make some things happen. And our clients will respect that. The ride is worth it. Somebody said up here that our clients are looking for certainty. These big jobs need certainty. They need to know they're going to complete. When they borrow that money has to flow and it has to be done in a certain amount of time. They can't afford the trauma of not completing on time. So going off script, I'm losing my way. So let's talk about where's the work, okay? So the first 2 points were be the ambassadors, sell, right? And collaborate. Good deal? We good with that? Okay, let's talk about where the work is. This lens of Turner, it's pretty big. We have a lot of scale. And it was set up here. And I'm telling you right now, if you're a union, I was talking to somebody from Chicago, I think it was Ron Starkey, and I heard somebody else say, oh, we're busy. We got so much work, we don't know what to do with it. Well, be careful. I had a ton of work, and it all evaporated. I had 5 jobs in Boston that were going to be science and lab projects. That evaporated. We had projects in Seattle. They evaporated. Because when the rates go up, as you know, money costs more, specifically development jobs will go by the wayside. But not the big box, right? Big box data has been really supporting us. Iowa, Kansas City, these big jobs. Google, Meta, right? Microsoft, Apple. That's where these jobs are coming from, and they want to go fast. And that's why they're unreasonable with time. But you better look in your backyards and see what other work is going by the wayside. We're not building commercial. Healthcare has even slowed down. We've seen education get a little sticky. I call it sticky. Is the work starting? I sent a note. There's a job over here, the Harrah's job, and ACOM Tishman's doing a job. The president of Tishman's a good friend of mine, Jay Badami. I sent him a note. I said, Jay, you got this job down in New Orleans. Shouldn't you keep your ass in New York and stop bothering us down in New Orleans? I got a shop down here too. He laughed. He said, no work in New York. I need to go someplace else. It's sticky out there, and the work will evaporate. Be careful that what you think you have may go away. I'm seeing it left and right. We're seeing erosion of the backlog. What is happening, though, and in the chip world, with all these layoffs, what do you think is happening? We had billions and billions. We did $16 billion last year, 16.4 throughout the states. At our biggest year over year, we're having bigger years, but it's different. We did $6 billion in big box data. You lose that customer, think about the percentage of Turner. We could be a data center construction company just as much as we could say we're a building company. Now, when the battery work came out, the big job in Ohio for LG Honda, that was a must-win for Turner. We didn't win that job. We were scared. What are we going to build? So we won that job, and we partnered. Somebody talked about collaborating and partnering. We have, I think it's 67 JVs in the company right now with major competitors that we work with side by side. That never happened in the past because we're teaming up together to go win work. We're teaming with Yates on that project for the battery. So now we're doing the Honda LG project. It's $4.5 billion. And there was another job that came out, I think it's in the Kansas City area, Panasonic, and we picked up that job for $3.5 billion. You didn't hear office building, did you? You didn't hear a hospital. And when that work goes in really fast because they need it really fast, it disguises the problems that our work is shrinking. And you got to turn on a dime. You got to pivot to make sure you know what you're doing. The next piece of work that we got to get ready for, and it's coming, if not already, is the chip world, right? It took me 12 months to get a replacement SUV, and when I got it, what I used to enjoy in my old one, like just a charger or a lumbar in my seats, I can't have because I don't have a chip. And they can't even tell me when they're going to get it. So we know manufacturing's come back to the States, and we can seize the moment, but we got to be prepared for it. And keep in mind, these owners who do this kind of work, they're not your classic owner. They're different, which is going to get me to the last point. So I'm telling you right now, construction in general, building construction, not so much civil work. The civil work with my E.E. Cruz hat on is different because of all that federal funding that's going to go on in infrastructure, right? We're just waiting for that money to start coming, and it's going to come. But these clients who are building the big box, they have a different mentality. They come with a mentality of safety, right? They want safety. They don't want to hear about it. They don't want show and tell. They want to see it. A near miss is a fatality in their world. They will shut down projects, and they will dismiss their general contractor and their contractor if they're not on board. I can tell you right now, the reason why Turner is doing better in safety is for a couple of really simple things. Number one, every morning we want to give each and every worker, the most important person on the job, an opportunity to share with us, do they have what they need to work safe today? And if you're not mentally fit because you had a fight with your wife last night or your kid OD'd or whatever it is, we know we have these challenges. Don't go perform the work. We won't have you climb and steal. We'll have you do some detail work today. We know when we have a morning huddle, and you know what you need to do is take them seriously. We've seen foremen hand us blank sheets, what they were going to do today, and have the men sign off on it. That's a foul. That's not improvement, right? That's just, leave me alone, let me go do what I got to do. And if you get killed today, does that make sense? Take it seriously, because your client is taking it seriously. The other thing these clients take very seriously is diversity, equity, and inclusion. Most of these major clients know they're going into markets, they're stripping earth, they're killing trees, they're doing some things that we want to build buildings, but think about what they're doing to the environment. Many of them are owned by foreign entities, and what they need, I'm watching time here, what they need to subscribe to is a thing called ESG. You guys know what ESG is? Environment, social, and governance. It's not a new drug. It's not a cure-all. It's something that's coming from Europe our way, and it's already hit. If you're a public corporation and you're doing work around the world, that means you're going into other markets, and those markets say, if you want to sell us your goods, if you're an American trying to sell your good in another market, they're going to ask you, what's your environmental responsibility, what's your social responsibility, and what's your governance? So if you're a publicly traded company in the States building a building, and you made a pledge that you will reduce carbon footprint by 30% by 2000, your carbon footprint as a company, or you're going to increase diversity in your ranks, including your boardroom, right? Think about that. They ding your stock price on Wall Street. And if you don't think major corporations, who many of us subscribe to, aren't going to pick the entity who gives them what they want so they can check their boxes and get their stock price up, we're going to lose work. And it's coming. Turner Construction Company this year is going to spend $6 million on ESG because we know it's coming, and if we don't get ready for it, we'll be in deep trouble. I guess I deleted my closing. But we're right at the finish line, right? Many of you have heard on Turner Projects that bias-motivated events is dear. It's not dear. It's upsetting to us. When you come to a Turner project, your manpower and womanpower come to our projects, and you go through that gate, we want you to feel like you're in our house. If you had a guest come to your house, you invite them into your house, you want to make them comfortable. We're practicing this thing called active caring, where we care for one another. And we think that if a workforce of 50, 200, 500, 1,000, some projects, 4,000 workers, when we're all working together, if we can care about one another, then we can watch out for one another. And you're in our house. And we want you to be warm in the winter. We want you to be cool. We want to have liquids. We don't want to have these dinky shanties. You should see some of the stuff we're doing, particularly in the big box. But I think my friends from New York will attest on 66 Hudson, a major tower, which is the new home of Turner Construction. We had medic rooms that were with linoleum and lighting and beautiful desks and stuff for the workers to come in, places to have their meals. We had 12 microwaves and finished rooms. Why wouldn't we? You're the most important person on the job. Why is it that my assistant can go down to the pantry and get a beautiful cup of coffee, yet the value she's creating may not be equal to the value that's being created in building a job, right? That's our mindset. But it's very, very upsetting when an individual walks onto our project, and let me tell you something, it's usually a person who goes rogue. It's not the critical mass. I think our critical mass today, and particularly our union leaders like Eric and many others, I've never stood in front of union leaders who didn't support me and my company and what we're trying to do. There's one in this room right now, Bobby Walsh. Bobby Walsh was at a stand-down for a bias-motivated event. We were pretty sure it was an iron worker. We weren't sure who. We had asked for support. Somebody in the room knows somebody who did it. It's always that way. But we're not going to say anything, right? What's that? If you see something, say something. No, we're just going to keep our mouths quiet. It's none of my business. But yet somebody in that room also was hurt by it. When have you ever read kind graffiti? Kind graffiti. When have you ever seen pretty pictures of graffiti that wasn't hurtful? I mean, come on. Be professional and be progressive. Is that the kind of artwork you want in your own bathroom at home? I don't think so. And if you're going to condone that as you go through your career, you're going to be on the sidelines. And we as a company took a stance that says, not in our house. You're welcome in our house. We'll feed you in our house. We'll keep you warm and cool in our house. But if you can't abide by just normal human behavior, maybe you're not welcome in our house. And we will work really hard to find that one person. And we have shut jobs down. We shut a job down at Microsoft. We sent home, 2,000 workers on our job. And my boss paid, I think it was Walbridge, but I'm not sure. Walbridge just shut down his job and paid for their impact. And he spent $15 million because he believes in what he's saying. Not in our house. And no one could step forward. We put up hundreds of thousands of dollars in money to identify who the person is. Very rarely do we find them. We had a situation up in Dartmouth where one person came forward and said, it's that person right there. He also collected $200,000. And you know what we did to that person? Not you personally, the guy with the beard. Why don't you stand up and show everybody who you are? He was an easy target with that beard. But that person who did this thing that was really nasty, he wrote on stairwell walls, really nasty things. You know what we did? We sent him for training, sensitivity training. He was a young person. He thought he was funny. He thought his brethren would recognize this is a moment. It wasn't a moment. It was stupid. And we just don't have patience for this stuff anymore. I spoke at the New York Building Congress event, which is a really big deal in New York. It's where labor, management, designers all come together, and Henry Turner, our founder, was part of the was a founder of this organization back in 1922. I went and studied 1922. What was the construction industry like in 1922? What was baseball like? What was music like? And it was interesting. At the head of most things you would say, who did this and who that, was a diverse person that we were celebrating. Al Jolson and other things. And here I am going to speak in November of 2022, and 2 months earlier we had a noose at 66 Hudson, the home of Turner Construction Company. How is that possible? How is it possible? Kevin, I'm going to quote you yesterday. It's got to stop. We're better than this. You're better than this. And I hope you will be professional and you will be progressive. Remember this: the most important person is the worker on the job, the person who works with their hands. They create the value each and every day. I think the next most important person is the client, the person who pays for the opportunity for us to do these wonderful things we do, build these magnificent projects. And if you do that with your hands and you respect that client, trust me, you'll get the work. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today.